In the early morning hours of August 15th, 2002, a horrific discovery was made that would shake the small town of Bassett, Virginia. The day began like any other for Chris Thompson, an employee of Michael Short's mobile home moving business. Thompson was scheduled to meet his employer at the Short family residence just before 9 a.m. The plan was to drive together to Christiansburg to pick up a truck for the business. However, as Thompson approached the property located off US Route 220, he immediately sensed that something was amiss. The first unusual detail that caught his attention was the open garage door. While this might not have been cause for alarm on its own, it was an odd sight given the early hour. Expecting to find Michael Short either working on a vehicle or perhaps still asleep, Thompson made his way into the garage. What he found instead would haunt him for years to come. There, on a couch where Michael often slept to avoid disturbing his wife with his snoring, lay the lifeless body of 50-year-old Michael Short. He had been shot once in the head with what investigators would later determine to be a small caliber weapon. The precision of the shot and the lack of defensive wounds suggested that Michael had been killed while he slept, unaware of the danger that had entered his home. Shocked and disoriented by the scene, Thompson made the decision to search for other members of the Short family. With growing dread, he entered the main house. Inside, the scene that greeted him was equally horrific. In the master bedroom, he found the body of 36-year-old Mary Short. Like her husband, Mary had been shot once in the head while lying in bed. As Thompson moved through the house, a realization began to dawn on him. There was no sign of the Short's 9-year-old daughter, Jennifer. Her absence from the crime scene would soon transform this double homicide into a complex investigation involving multiple jurisdictions and law enforcement agencies. Upon discovering the bodies, Thompson contacted the Henry County Sheriff's Office. One of the most significant pieces of evidence found at the scene were two .22 caliber shell casings. Investigators discovered one casing near Michael's body in the garage and another next to Mary in the bedroom. This discovery not only confirmed the use of a small caliber weapon, but also supported the theory that both victims had been killed by the same perpetrator using the same firearm. The choice of a .22 caliber weapon was noteworthy as it's a relatively quiet firearm. This detail suggested that the killer may have been trying to minimize noise, possibly to avoid alerting neighbors or other family members. Perhaps one of the most chilling pieces of evidence was the discovery that the phone lines to the house had been cut. This deliberate act pointed to an unsettling level of premeditation. The killer had clearly planned their attack in advance, taking steps to prevent the victims from calling for help. The timeline of the crime became a crucial element of the investigation. Based on when Chris Thompson had last seen the family alive and when he discovered the bodies, authorities established that the attack on the Short family occurred sometime after midnight on August 14th. This window would prove challenging for investigators as they attempted to piece together the events of that fateful night. As investigators combed through the Short family home, they made another disturbing discovery. In Jennifer's bedroom, they noted several signs of disturbance. Her mattress had been moved about 2 inches from its usual position, her sheets were pulled back, and her pillow was found on the floor. These details painted a picture of Jennifer's likely abduction from her bed, adding a new layer of urgency to the investigation. Interestingly, despite the violent nature of the crime, there were no signs of forced entry into the home. This led investigators to consider the possibility that the Shorts may have known their attacker, or at least that the perpetrator had found a way to enter the home without arousing suspicion. Another puzzling aspect of the crime scene was the apparent lack of robbery as a motive. Investigators found approximately $600 in cash left untouched on the kitchen counter, along with blank checks belonging to the Shorts. The presence of these valuables ruled out theft as the primary motivation for the murders. As the investigation progressed, law enforcement expanded their search beyond the immediate crime scene. They scoured the surrounding farmland, groves, and woods, employing a wide array of resources including helicopters, search dogs, and four-wheel drive vehicles. However, their efforts to locate Jennifer or uncover additional evidence were hampered by intermittent rain in the days following the discovery of the bodies. The sheriff's office kept the Shorts' home closed off to their loved ones for more than 2 weeks, carefully scanning every inch of the property for potential clues. They collected an extensive amount of DNA evidence from the home, though officials have never specified the exact nature or quantity of this evidence. In official affidavits, it was revealed that approximately 66 items were removed from the home as evidence. Among the items collected were a 12-gauge Winchester shotgun and a box of 12-gauge shotgun shells. While these weren't believed to be the murder weapon, they were taken for thorough examination. A 22 caliber rifle and a partial box of 22 caliber ammunition were also collected, given their potential connection to the shell casings found at the scene. Investigators also seized a computer disk and unidentified documents contained in a briefcase. These items could potentially hold valuable information about the Short family's personal and business affairs, which might shed light on possible motives or suspects. One intriguing piece of evidence was a reported note found on the kitchen table. The contents of this note have remained a mystery, with authorities never publicly disclosing what, if anything, was written on it. In the days following the discovery of the crime, law enforcement conducted extensive interviews with family members, friends, and associates of the family. Chris Thompson, who had been with the Shorts the night before their murder, was questioned extensively. He reportedly told police that when he had left late on the evening of August 14th, the entire family was still alive and well, and Jennifer had already gone to bed. Thompson was presumably cleared as a suspect, with officers stating that he was open and cooperative throughout the investigation. Given that the Shorts had recently put their home on the market, investigators also pulled real estate records to see who had recently toured the family's home. This line of inquiry was based on the theory that the perpetrator might have used property viewings as an opportunity to familiarize themselves with the layout of the house. However, it's unclear whether this led to any significant leads. As news of the murders and Jennifer's disappearance spread, the community rallied together. Volunteers joined law enforcement in the search efforts, combing through the rural landscape surrounding the Short property. Amber alerts were issued, and Jennifer's information and picture were displayed on billboards across Virginia. Despite these extensive efforts, no trace of the young girl was found in the immediate aftermath of the crime. The investigation quickly grew to involve multiple agencies, including the Virginia State Police and the FBI. The complexity of the case, involving a double homicide and a missing child, demanded a coordinated effort from various law enforcement bodies. The FBI's involvement brought additional resources and expertise to the investigation, including access to their extensive fingerprint database and advanced forensic capabilities. In the weeks following the murders, investigators pursued numerous leads and theories. They looked into Michael Short's business, exploring the possibility of disgruntled employees or customers. They also examined the family's financial records and personal relationships, searching for any conflicts or issues that might have led to such a violent act. The lack of an obvious motive continued to perplex investigators. The execution-style killings suggested a personal motive, yet the abduction of Jennifer didn't seem to fit in. Authorities found themselves grappling with multiple theories. Was this a targeted attack on the parents with Jennifer's abduction as an afterthought, or was Jennifer the primary target with her parents killed to facilitate her abduction? As the investigation continued, authorities employed various techniques to generate leads. They released a composite sketch of a man seen near the Short home on the morning of the murders, described as having a weathered complexion and driving a white single-cab flatbed truck. However, this lead, like many others, did not result in a breakthrough in the case. The investigation took an unusual turn when Michael Short's remains were exhumed on September 4th, 2002, for what authorities described as forensic purposes. While this fueled speculation about potential paternity issues related to Jennifer, police denied these claims, stating that the exhumation was to obtain hair samples that had not been taken during the initial autopsy. As days turned into weeks with no sign of Jennifer, the focus of the investigation began to shift. The hope that she might be found alive began to fade, replaced by a grim determination to uncover the truth about what had happened to the victims. Fast forward to September 25th, 2002, approximately 6 weeks after Jennifer's disappearance, a grim discovery was made in Rockingham County, North Carolina, about 35 miles south of the Short family home in Virginia. The discovery was made by Eddie Albert, a local resident of Rockingham County. Albert initially found what he thought was a piece of a wig on his property. This seemingly innocuous find would soon lead to a heartbreaking revelation. 2 days after this initial discovery, Albert's dogs brought him what appeared to be a fragment of a human skull. Realizing the potential significance of this find, Albert promptly contacted the authorities. Law enforcement quickly responded to the property, which included a creek that ran through his yard, spanned by a bridge. The area became the focus of an intensive search operation. As investigators combed through the creek bed and the area under the nearby bridge, they began to uncover more human remains. The search of the creek and surrounding area yielded only about a quarter of a skeleton. The remains were scattered, suggesting that they had been there for some time and possibly moved by natural forces such as water currents or animal activity. Among the recovered remains were Jennifer's skull with a full head of hair, leg bones, part of her jaw, rib cage bones, and 16 teeth. The discovery of the remains was a shock to the Albert family and the local community. One statement mentioned that members of the family reported that they had found the child's teeth in their driveway. What they had initially believed to be their dog playing with a turtle shell turned out to be part of Jennifer's skull. Initially, there was some uncertainty about whether the remains belonged to Jennifer. The police initially told the media that they didn't believe the remains were Jennifer's because the hair didn't match hers. However, by early October, DNA testing conducted at a lab in Roanoke, Virginia, confirmed what many had feared. The remains did indeed belong to Jennifer Short. Further examination of the remains revealed that, like her parents, Jennifer also suffered a single gunshot to the head. In the wake of the discovery, law enforcement intensified their efforts to find the killer. They began to look more closely at the area where Jennifer's remains were found, hoping it might provide clues to the killer's identity or connections to the region. In October 2002, authorities named Garrison Bowman, a 60-year-old carpenter from Madison, North Carolina, as a material witness and later a potential suspect. Suspicion fell on Bowman due to several factors. He had last been seen in the area on August 15, 2002, the day after the Shorts were killed. Adding to the suspicion, Bowman had left a note in his mailbox stating that he had moved to Alaska, but deputies noted that he had asked for his mail to be forwarded to an address in Pennsylvania. Law enforcement seized 9 maps from his mobile home on September 28, 2002. One of these maps was marked to show the location of the Shorts' home, which intensified suspicion against him. Despite the circumstantial evidence, authorities were careful not to label Bowman as a definitive suspect. Sheriff Sam Page stated, "He has not been listed as a suspect, but we do need to talk to him. We know where he's at and we will be interviewing him at a later time." Bowman was eventually located in Canada and interviewed by authorities. He vehemently denied any involvement in the murders. In a 2004 interview with the News and Record of Greensboro, Bowman stated, "This will hang over me for the rest of my life unless they find the person who did it." He claimed he never met the Short family and would never have harmed them. He cooperated with the investigation, providing DNA samples and submitting to questioning. By 2007, authorities officially cleared him as a suspect. The focus on Bowman had consumed thousands of investigative hours, which some critics argue may have diverted resources from other potential leads.